Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andrew Mahone here with DRAM's Competitive Pokemon. Today, we're going to be going over John Kettler's second place Decidueye Vileplume deck from the North American Intercontinental Championships. I absolutely love this deck, love the way it runs. I've played Decidueye a lot this season, earned a lot of championship points with this list, and I have a lot of respect for John coming up with this deck months and months ago at the regional championships, and just super stoked to see that he was able to take his original list and just pilot all the way to a second place finish at the biggest Pokemon tournament ever held. So super proud of him. Props to John Kettler for coming up with such an awesome deck. Going to be reviewing this deck today. Just look at the changes that he made and brought this list to perfection at the North American Intercontinental Championships. So without further ado, he does start out with a 4-4-4 Decidueye line. This is the backbone of the deck. Decidueye is not only your biggest support, but he's also a great attacker, and it's just the whole reason that this deck works. You get Decidueye, as many Decidueye out in the field as possible. That's why we play a 4-4-4 line. We don't play any rare candies or anything like that. You're going to be evolving up manually through Dartrix using Forest of Giant Plants. We also play a 2-2-2 Vileplume line. Now the point of this deck is you're going to evolve up into as many Decidueye-GX as you can, and then when you deem the time correct, you're going to finally put that Vileplume into play so that its irritating pollen ability makes it so that each player cannot play any item cards from their hand. Ideally, you blow through your deck, maybe set up 2 Decidueye, and then get a Vileplume into play on the first turn of the game. This does happen sometimes, and those are the games you pretty much run away with them very quickly and very early. Not unlikely that your opponent would scoop up their card to go to the next game if you get a board position that sturdy on the first turn of the game, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes Vileplume stays hiding until the later parts of the game, but even when Vileplume does come out in the latter parts of the game, Vileplume is still extremely valuable for shutting off your opponent's strategy and just being able to limit their options. I mean, they can't play things like Ultra Ball, Choice Band, Versus Seeker. They can't stream Hex Maniac as easily. I love the inclusion of Vileplume in this deck. Now, some Decidueye decks were cutting Vileplume and making room for cards like Tapu Koko and Ninetales GX, kind of adopting a different strategy along with Decidueye. I love this tried and true list that includes Vileplume. I think that this is the strongest way to play this deck, and I think this deck stays strong heading into the World Championships here in August, especially since there are new cards like Gardevoir coming out, decks that rely on rare candies and items. I think that Decidueye Vileplume is just such a strong archetype that it can weather even these new changes, just like it did this past format. See, John also plays 2 copies of Shaymin-EX to use its setup ability to draw cards. You want to be able to burn through your deck as fast as possible to set up as many Decidueye, so you got to play 2 Shaymin-EX. Tapu Lele is here as well, not only for its Wonder Tag ability, being able to select the supporter from the deck to be able to pull that out even under Vileplume lock. You can put Tapu Lele on the bench and select a supporter from deck like Lysandre and Sycamore, all very valuable under Vileplume's item lock, but also Tapu Lele-GX is great for its energy drive attack. It's just such an efficient, low maintenance attacker. You could just start throwing energy on it as soon as possible, and then you could build up big energy drives that'll just knock out the opponent's Pokemon in combination with Decidueye's Feather Arrow. To back things up, we do also have 1 Lugia-EX. Lugia-EX is amazing for that deep hurricane attack, being able to fire off 150 after 150, discarding Forest of Giant Plants, in combination with Feather Arrow, hits some amazing numbers. So this is the Pokemon for the deck. I think John did a great job selecting the Pokemon here, and this is exactly how I would play it if I were to play this deck at a tournament. Moving on to the supporter counts, John does play a full suit for Sycamore, 4N, 2 Lysandre, and a unique addition, an Olympia. Now, I really love the inclusion of Olympia here. Not only does Olympia heal your Pokemon, but allows you to have some mobility. It really shines here because you could pick it out with Tapu Lele-GX. So it used to be in this deck that if you didn't get a Float Stone down on a Pokemon, it was just tough stuff. You weren't going to be able to retreat it for free. Now, with Olympia in deck, you can save Olympia for the right moment and then use Olympia to get a surprise switching effect that maybe your opponent doesn't see coming in the middle of the game. Also notice here, John does play 4 copies of N. I'd seen earlier copiers of the list maybe play 3 N and just go away with that. John opted for the 4th N here, which I think is very smart, just increasing that consistency, also allowing for more disruption on Drampa GX's big wheel attack. So I really think that this is a great supporter setup, and I really love the inclusion of Olympia here. Even though we don't play Versus Seeker to get Olympia back, it can always be hollow hunted back into play. We will see John does play 3 copies of Trainers Mail. Some lists had played 4, he plays 3. 2 Revitalizer. Some lists had played a copy of Rescue Stretcher instead of a Revitalizer, but since John doesn't play any Ninetales or things like that, the 2 Revitalizer are the correct play here. He plays 4 Ultra Ball, which goes without saying. It's your consistency, searching out Pokemon, Shaymin, Tapu Lele, and 2 copies of Level Ball, along with 2 copies of Float Stone and a Field Blower. So the 2 Level Balls, a little bit of a concession here. I'd seen many lists earlier in the season playing 3 and 4 copies of Level Ball. John said, you know what, I'd rather play more supporters. I think this is probably where the 4th N comes from. He'd just taken away a Level Ball, added that to the supporter count, and things end up drawing just fine. I had seen some lists play 4 copies of Trainers Mail as well, so you can kind of see that John has taken a step back a little bit from that turbo engine. And the reason he's done this is to make his deck a little less susceptible to Garbodor's Trash-a-Lance. By limiting the amount of trainers you have in your deck, you make it so that it's easier to keep trainers out of the discard. So he gives himself a little bit of an improved Garbodor matchup by cutting down to 3 Trainers Mail and cutting down to 2 Levels Ball and increasing that supporter count overall. So I really like what he's done there with that. You can also see John does play 4 copies of Forest of Giant Plants. That goes without saying. This is kind of the lifeblood of the deck. As soon as you get Forest of Giant Plants out into play, you are free to be able to evolve up into your Decidueyes and Vileplumes. Sometimes the success of this deck will ride entirely on whether or not you're able to find Forest of Giant Plants early. John also plays this 1 copy of Field Blower. Excellent inclusion in this deck. Field Blower not only removes tools from Garbodor, the ability locking one, the Garbotoxin Garbodor, which is essential. You need to be able to remove that Float Stone from Garbodor so that you can continue using your Feather Arrow. This deck shuts down if Garbodor is able to lock you out of your abilities. So you need that 1 copy of Field Blower for that. Also removes cards like Fighting Fury Belt, removes Stadiums, just a great, useful utility card that can be hollow hunted back should you need to use it again. This deck is also great for Lysandering things up and stalling them out in the active once Vileplume is up. So say your opponent has a Float Stone maybe on a Volcanion or something like that and has no energy on the Volcanion, you can use Field Blower to bump that Float Stone off, then set up your Vileplume, Lysander the Volcanion with no energy and no Float Stone out, and then proceed to just snipe the rest of your opponent's field and win the game that way. Many games are won that way, and Field Blower is an awesome, awesome inclusion for helping that path to victory. So you will see John's energy count. He plays 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy and 4 Grass. I had been playing 3 Grass all season, and I'd seen many other players doing the same, John included. So I saw John add that 4th Grass energy in. I really do like that for the increased consistency. Just also giving you more energy in deck to power up Tapu Lele's energy drive, to power up Lugia. Also giving you a more consistent attack with your Decidueye-GX. Just giving you more outs to hollow hunt throughout the game. The 4th energy is a luxury, but it's a nice luxury to have, and I will agree with that. So that's it. That's what we have for the Decidueye deck. Make sure to check out some of the gameplay videos that I have here on the channel. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to comment, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think about this new channel. Really excited to be here. Thanks again for checking it out.